Hello everyone, welcome to Everything Enfield. I'm Mike Tippo. We haven't been on for a while and I'd like to explain a little bit about what our program entails. Basically, we interview folks who are with the town government, the Board of Ed, the fire departments, organizations in town, just to give you an idea of what's going on in Enfield. We've just started, this will be the first show that will be on ATT Uverse. So we want to welcome all those folks who are on that cable station and welcome aboard. And we've got a good show for us today. We've got the Republican Party Registrar of Voters, David Wauer, and he's going to be talking, among other things, about a primary presidential election that I understand is coming up. Haven't heard too much about that, David.
Not too much.
There's people running for president this year, is there?
I believe there are.
Yeah? All right. Now, we're going to be talking about the Republican presidential primary. The Democrats are not going to have a primary, is that correct?
That's correct. The incumbent President Obama does not have a challenger. So, and typically in a year where the party in the White House has an incumbent, there is rarely a challenger. I believe the last time there was a challenger to a Democrat president was 1980. And the now deceased Senator Ted Kennedy ran against Jimmy Carter.
Oh, that's right. I was thinking LBJ when you started talking about that.
No, it was Kennedy.
Yeah. It was Kennedy, that's right.
Correct.
Yeah. And I don't think they ever totally mended that fence
I don't
between
believe
Jimmy Carter
so.
and Ted Kennedy. Why don't we start off first with a very basic. We've got somebody that just moved into town, is not a registered voter anywhere. They would like to register just to vote. How would they go about doing that?
Well, it's a very simple process, Mike. We allow people to register by coming into Town Hall, at the Town Clerk's office, which is open Monday through Friday, 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. Our office is open Monday through Thursday, typically 9 a.m. to 1 p.m. It's just a very simple form to fill out with a name, address, and some other information and signature, and within a day the name is entered into the database. Now there's another opportunity to register to vote on the town website, www.enfield-ct.gov. There is a voter registration form, and people do not have to leave their homes or their offices or even the school classroom. They can register to vote from any of those sites. It's just a matter of printing out the form and then filling it out and mailing it back to Town Hall or dropping it off. And people who move to Enfield for the first time from another town in Connecticut, you're not treated as a registered voter in the town of Enfield, because each of the 169 cities and towns have separate voting requirements. What we'll do is someone has moved from, say, Coventry or Hebron or Andover or Ellington to Enfield. What we'll do is and they were a registered voter in that town, we will transfer their voting address to Enfield, but they must fill out the voter registration card for Enfield. It's a state of Connecticut requirement.
Okay.
We're required to have here in our files a signed application for Enfield.
Okay. That's very important. They can't think, well, even if I don't want to vote in any Enfield issues, in order to run, to vote, particularly in this presidential primary, they still have to register to vote here in Enfield,
Correct.
even though they were registered in Ellington.
Correct.
Okay, I think that's really important that they understand that. Now, who can vote in this primary, presidential primary?
In the presidential primary, any elector, that's a person who's a registered voter, who is an elector in the Republican Party. We've had a funny experience back in 2008 when we had both political parties having a primary in February. Many unaffiliated voters thought they could come and vote on that day. The correct answer is you must be registered in the party that is holding that election.
Now, how if you are an independent or even a Democrat and he really feels they have a dog in this fight and they want to vote in this primary. Can both of those people do that?
The short answer is yes to one and no to the other at this point. Anyone who's an unaffiliated voter, or again, not registered right now, can come into Enfield Town Hall at the hours I mentioned, or go online and fill out the application and submit it. And they have until a week before the presidential primary to register what I call by mail. And they have up until the day before the presidential primary, 9 a.m. to 12 noon specifically, on April 23rd, to come in and register. Or to change your affiliation from unregistered, unaffiliated to Republican. So you have that time frame to make a change. If you are enrolled in a party, Democrat, Libertarian, Green, Working Family, it is too late to change to Republican. The deadline for changing from one party to another for a primary is 90 days before the primary election.
Okay.
But I will put out a caveat, because we do expect to have another election on August 14th of both parties, Democrat and Republican. I expect the candidates for the U.S. Senate for both parties to be running in a primary on Tuesday, August 14th. And that would mean if one wants to vote in either party's primary on August 14th, and they're in a party, the different party, they have to make the switch 90 days before August 14th.
Okay, all right. Now, when is this presidential primary election going to be held?
This year's presidential primary will be on Tuesday, April 24th, 2012. Polls open at 6 a.m. and they close at 8 p.m.
Okay. And where are the polling places going to be, Dave?
The polling places for this primary are two locations. John F. Kennedy Middle School for House District 59 and Enfield High School for House District 58.
Okay. And if people are not sure, again, maybe somebody that's new in the community, if they're in District 58 or 59, how would they find that out?
First of all, we are sending a mailing out this week to all registered Republicans living in either of the two General Assembly districts, and telling them where they will vote on Tuesday, April 24th. So every household that's already a registered Republican will be getting that mailing, a postcard. It's a pretty colorful postcard. I think you have a sample of it. It's pretty clear where you're going to vote.
Good.
We expect a flood of questions, phone calls, emails to come in probably in the next couple of weeks once people receive the postcard asking why.
Okay.
But the reason why is because the United States Constitution and the Connecticut Constitution require redistricting once every 10 years.
Right.
And the General Assembly, in its infinite wisdom, recarved the two House districts in Enfield.
Is it a nice straight line, or do we have some ups and downs and lefts and rights?
You can see, and maybe this is where we can refer people to the map.
Okay.
We have a map on the town website, and I believe it's going to be shown on the TV screen shortly, that delineates the two districts. And it is not a straight up and down.
Okay.
It's a very what happened was the new General Assembly population requirements are a minimum of 23,000 people in a General Assembly district. And Enfield has had, historically, for past 10 years, two General Assembly districts. But Enfield had sufficient population back in the year 1999 and 2000 or 2001 to have just two distinct districts. What happened is in the ensuing 10 years, Enfield's population declined relative to other cities and towns. So it could not fully constitute two separate General Assembly districts just for Enfield.
Okay.
And the map is will show where the voting site is for that General Assembly district. And where it may be difficult to look at on the computer screen if you're looking from your home or on the watching the TV. But it's you can download the map, and you can print it out, and you can pretty much see where the two district lines are.
Okay.
I will point out one other feature on the Town of Enfield website, which is www.enfield-ct.gov. I believe on the front of the website is a feature called Where Do I Vote? And a person can go to the town website, click on that link. It'll come up with a list of every street in the town. You type in your street. It'll then ask you for a street number.
Yep.
And then, lo and behold, up on your computer screen will be the location you vote at.
Just to jump in, and you just brought it up, and I think it's really important, especially if you're new to the town or you're new to a computer, whether you have a computer at home or you use one at the library or the senior center, that are available free of charge. The Enfield website is great to know anything you want to know about the town. When is trash pickup? When is brush pickup? They're just starting that at the end of this month. And people in my neighborhood were saying, do you know when they're going to start that again? Gee, we've got a lot of stuff because of late October storm that we got to get rid of. Do you know when they're going to start that? Well, it's right there on the website. If you want to know anything about valuation of houses in town with the new valuation, that's on there. Schools have their own websites. Fire departments have their own websites. Anything like that, we have a great website. Put a lot of care and effort into it, and I strongly recommend that. Just for this example of what David was talking about, you can find a lot of really good information on there. Okay, now you brought up an interesting quandary here, and I don't know the answer. That's why I'm going to ask you, because I know you know all things voting. Somebody says, as I mentioned earlier, I want to change from Democrat to Republican to vote in this primary. Okay? And then they're looking at the people that are going to be voting, are going to be running the United States Senate. Okay?
Okay.
They say, hey, I want to vote in the Democratic primary. I was originally a Democrat, then I had to change to Republican for the presidential primary. Now I want to vote in the senatorial primary. Can they do it?
Sure. Yeah, people can switch party affiliations today. I mean, it's very convenient.
But is there a 90-day
There's
requirement?
a 90-day requirement from party to party for any primary election. So the 90-day period for April 24th was January 24th. I've been
Okay.
reminded by my staff.
Right.
But if someone wants to come in and switch parties, they're welcome to do that any time of the day. I mean, any time we're open.
But they won't have the
They
90
won't
days,
have,
will
they won't have the ability to vote in the upcoming presidential primary. But, for example, today, if there's someone who's unaffiliated wants to register as a Democrat
Right.
to vote in for a Democrat candidate for U.S. Senate,
Right.
they can come in today.
Yep.
And they can actually come into the day before that August 14th primary election for a Democrat Senate,
Right.
and between 9 a.m. and 12 noon in our office, and change.
But my point was, if they did change to Republican to vote in the presidential primary,
And
do
wanna
they
go
have
back.
enough time to get it
Sure.
changed? But do they have to come in personally and do it?
No, they don't. You can go to the town website, download the form, and in the upper right-hand corner, it'll say party registration change. You check that box, and you fill in the information on the card completely. Then where it says party, you can go check in Democrat. When we receive it, we will change it back from Republican to Democrat.
And you don't need the 90 days between?
You would need 90 days before August 14th.
Well, that would be after the,
You can vote in the presidential primary
Right.
for Republican.
right,
And then you have up until May 14th, I believe it is, May, June,
Okay,
July, August.
all right.
May
so
14th
you
to
better do
switch.
it quickly.
Correct. There is a
Okay.
time frame where between April 24th and May 14th, when you can switch back to the other party.
Okay. Let's talk a little bit about the ballot.
Mhm.
Okay. Now, how many names are on that ballot for the Republican primary right now?
There are 4 names that were certified by the Secretary of State's office: Mitt Romney, Rick Santorum, Newt Gingrich, and Ron Paul.
What do they have to do to be certified here in Connecticut?
There's a requirement to fill out certain paperwork with the Secretary of State's office, and I'm not, to be honest, I'm not familiar with the rest of it. Every state is different to get on a ballot.
Yeah.
I believe in Connecticut, the process was pretty simple.
Mhm.
But in some states, they require a lot of signatures. I'm not sure if that is the requirement in Connecticut. But it seemed that it was very easy for those candidates to get on the ballot.
Yeah, it sounds, from what you said, I thought there would be some other criteria, but I guess not. There's no financial consideration?
No,
anything
I
like
believe
that?
not, no. I believe Connecticut's there's some paperwork for the campaign committee to fill out.
Are those ballots already printed?
The answer is not yet.
Could, if one of those candidates dropped out in the next few days, would their name be removed from that ballot, or is
No,
by law has to
no.
stay on?
By law, the last date for the candidate to withdraw was March 20th.
All right, so we're past that. So
Correct.
those 4 names are going to...
Yeah, on March 21st, the town clerk, Susanna Linicky, who does the ballot ordering for us, put in the ballot request, the paper ballot request to the printer. So
Are we
that
going to
is-
have enough ballots?
Good question, Mike. Late yesterday, Suzanne and I met to fill out a new paperwork requirement for the Secretary of State's office. As a result of the Bridgeport
Right.
fiasco in November of 2011, a law was passed in the spring of 2011 requiring registrars and town clerks to jointly certify the number of paper ballots they were ordering
Mhm.
for each voting site. And it requires a look back for 3 or 4 previous elections of that same kind to look at what the voter turnout was. And we did that for the first time for the November 2011 municipal election. We had to look back four municipal elections to see what the voter turnout was at each of our voting sites, and then put down the number of ballots that were going to be ordered. And we did that yesterday.
Okay.
So there are 4,800 registered Republicans in Enfield. And back in 2008, 1,500 of them came out to vote. Back in 2000, I believe it was, 1,800 came out. So we've ordered 2,000 ballots, 50%, a little under 50% of the registered Republicans in the town.
Does the town have to pay for those ballots?
That's correct. A town of Enfield budget pays for those ballots.
Do you know what they cost?
I do not know the numbers. Suzanne does. I'm going to, off the top of my head, 50 cents or a
Yeah,
dollar a
yeah.
ballot. It's a specific number
Yeah,
that printing companies charge.
okay, all right. The state themselves don't print them?
No.
Yeah, okay, all right. On our last general election, how many people did we have vote?
In the November 2011, we had, I believe it was 5,300 or 5,500 people voted. And that was down by about 1,000 or so, and I attribute that to the people still recovering from the massive October or Halloween snowstorm.
Yeah, yeah. How many registered voters do we have in town?
We have approximately 25,000 registered voters in Enfield. And these are approximate numbers.
Mhm.
There are about 4,800. There are 4,800 Republicans, 8,900 Democrats, and it's between 11 and 12,000 unaffiliated voters. So the biggest party in town is no party.
There's no party, thank you very much. Oh, interesting. Now, both of the election, or both of the voting places this year, or this primary, are at schools.
Correct.
Are those schools going to be open on those days?
Yes, the schools will be open on the presidential primary Tuesday, April 24th. And the Board of Education has historically opened schools on primary days during the school year.
Okay,
That will not be the case
right.
for the U.S. Senate primaries in August. But yes, and it's something that voters should be aware of. When they come to the schools, we will have specific parking spaces identified with signs, with signage. And if I may, I'll just kind of
Please do.
explain
That was my concern.
each site. At Enfield High School, there is the row of parking spaces closest to the auditorium door. We're going to have most of those spaces reserved for handicapped or elderly senior voters.
Mm-hmm.
Then the next two rows are called visitor parking, and it's labeled high school visitor parking, and that's where we'll be parking voters as well during the day. And again, schools are open 7 a.m. until 1:30 or 2.
Mm-hmm.
So after 2 p.m., things will clear up. The entire parking lots at Enfield High will be open. At JFK, the parking will be there are 4 rows of parking closest to the basketball courts
Okay.
on the north side parking lot near the gym entrance. And I'm not sure if it's where there are soccer fields down below.
Mm-hmm.
That's typically where you find parents parking for soccer games on evenings and weekends.
Yeah.
And those spaces will be reserved for voters. There's also a row of 8 to 10 handicapped spaces right next to the gym door in the rear of the building.
Yeah.
And there is going to be something that people who come to vote between 1 and 2 o'clock at Enfield High should be aware of, and that is the school buses will be picking up students,
Yeah.
and people driving in should be careful not to pass by a bus if it has the red lights flashing and the stop sign up. And again, that's only for a short period of time at Enfield High while the students are picked up and taken home.
Yeah.
At JFK, I believe the pickup is between 2:30 and 3:30. It's later in the afternoon, and the school buses are going to be lined up on the curb, and unfortunately they will be in the area where the handicapped voting parking spaces are. And should those red lights be flashing, the stop signs up and the red lights flashing, the driver cannot pass through the school buses.
Yeah. Yeah.
But we're going to have people out in the parking lots while the school buses are there and picking up students to help direct people. They can walk between the buses, but they just can't drive cars there.
Sure, that makes sense.
But we hope to utilize the public safety officers that are on site at the schools during the school day to assist us with any traffic-related activities while the school buses are there.
And that's, like you said, like maybe a half an hour period.
Correct.
Yeah, so it shouldn't be too much.
It should not be too bad.
Was it a town decision, or was it you and Carol's decision to have it at 2 locations rather than the 4 normal voting locations?
Yeah, the decision was made by the registrars, which is the requirement of the law, to identify at least 1 voting site in each General Assembly district.
Okay.
And because of the changes, redistricting, which we went through in late December, early January, as required by law, we determined that at least for the primaries, the April 24th, August 14th primaries, we would have 1 site in each General Assembly district. It gets a little complex, Mike. We do not want to talk today about municipal council districts, because
No,
those are
no.
separate,
Right,
separate voting jurisdictions,
Right.
geographic jurisdictions. They're separate and distinct
Right.
from what we need to use, which are General Assembly voting districts.
and I have a funny feeling that we're going to have this discussion again in maybe September when we're talking about the general election coming up.
Correct. Well,
We'll
it's,
talk about the 4 locations
at
at that time.
At that time, we're hoping, and I'll digress because we're sending out postcard mailers to Republican households this week, or it should be getting here, but in your homes by next April 1 or 2. We will be sending out postcard mailers to Democrat households several weeks prior to the August 14th Democrat and Republican U.S. Senate primaries. Again, so that Democrats, registered Democrats, will identify where they're going to be voting on August 14th, and it will be at one of these 2 sites. We made a presentation to the town council a couple months ago about General Assembly redistricting. The question was raised by council members at the time. What about realigning the council districts with the new General Assembly districts and carving up the map so you have 2 sites in each General Assembly district? And the answer is we're going to try and get to that point somewhere in the spring. Council, we're working with, Carol and I are working with town manager and the town IT department, and of course the council to get that process underway. We assume that once the budget process is complete here in the town, that task can be implemented. And it's not, because the town charter does not require any population requirements.
really?
That is correct.
Oh, that's interesting.
When you move council district boundary lines, it should be a fairly easy process to realign so that we would have 4 voting sites in November. Now, we would have to petition the Secretary of the State's office to go back to 4 because, but I think we'll be able to do that. And have people who are used to going to 4 places back in that alignment for this November. But again, that's dependent on the council approving an ordinance that changes the geographic boundaries of the 4 council districts.
Okay. I just realized if you're listening and saying, who's Carol? Carol Sensky is the Democrat Party's registrar of voters, and David and Carol work very closely together, as you can see by the conversation we've been having, for some of the decisions that they make, and both of them have been on here many times together, and nary a bad word between them. They get along very well and work very smoothly together.
I emailed Carol before I came on today's show and asked her, where are you? We need to get together.
Yeah.
Carol will be working for me, as it were, the day of the Republican
really?
presidential primary. Sure, I've
Very
retained her
good.
as an office worker.
Excellent.
Excellent. When a primary is conducted for a single party, it's up to that party's registrar to manage the primary.
Right.
So it's been my responsibility to seek out poll workers and work with the school principals and
Yep.
coordinating the traffic flow and the like. Although Carol was there with me at both sites, we were with both principals, so we do this as a team.
Yep.
And try and ensure that we have a joint decision, so we're comfortable with what we're doing. And besides, Carol brings many insights to the table that I don't have from her background, her work background, so I appreciate her input.
Sure. So both of these primaries are going to be held at 2 locations?
Correct.
In the same 2 locations?
Correct.
Okay.
Now
So you're going to be busy when you have Republicans on one side and Democrats on the other for the senatorial primary?
Correct. Yeah, we'll hopefully we'll come back again in the summertime and we'll talk about how that is going to be set up. But it'll be there won't be any school going on, so parking should be easier. when you do separate party primaries, you have 2 check-in lines.
Yep.
And you still have 1 moderator, and you still have 1 scanner. So but we've done this before, and we've worked at these sites. I do want to mention
What of it?
for the
You don't
public.
have 2 separate scanners, one for Democratic votes and one for Republican
No,
votes?
not
Is
in a
that right?
primary. No, it's we learned back in 2008 in the presidential primary that the scanner card, which is about this big,
Mm-hmm.
can be programmed to tally both parties'
Okay.
candidates. So it's one long tape.
Oh, okay.
So we're going to be doing that. Now, one of the points I should make at Enfield High, since we moved to Enfield High in 2009, we've been voting in the cafeteria.
Right,
Because Tuesday, April 24th is a school day,
yeah.
people will be voting in a classroom directly off the parking lot.
Good.
We've been there. It's and Principal Tom Duffy and Head Custodian Daryl Crowley are working very closely with us. It's easily accessible.
Good.
Right from the parking lot. You will not have to go down any corridors. We will have a sign outside pointing people to the doorway. It's a double glass doorway. It's easy access. It's a shorter walk.
Good.
And we may be using that same room in August just for because of the turnout.
And you would be able to get both party?
I believe we can get,
Good.
we're looking
You
at
can take a good look
logistics of
at it,
that,
yeah,
but we think
this
we
time.
can, yes.
Yeah. All right, let's kind of recap for someone that might have come in a little bit late. My name is Mike Tippo. The handsome gentleman to my left, your right, is David Lauer. David is the Republican Party Registrar of Voters, and we're talking about today the Republican primary presidential election. And let's just recap a little bit, Dave. What's the date again for that?
That election is Tuesday, April 24th, 2012. The polls open from 6 a.m. They close at 8 p.m. The 2 voting sites for this primary are John F. Kennedy Middle School for General Assembly District 59 and Enfield High School for General Assembly District 58. And people can go to the town website to see the maps of the 2 voting districts.
Handicap parking?
Handicap
For older
parking.
people.
Yeah, it's we're reserving at Enfield High the line of the row of parking closest to the auditorium door. There are 4 handicap signs. We're going to put up 4 temporary handicap signs. There should be plenty of handicap parking. And then the next 2 rows beyond that, where it says visitor parking for the high schools, where other voters should park and then walk to the voting room. At JFK, the handicap parking, there are 8 to 10 spaces directly next to the building at the gymnasium door in the rear of the complex.
You're going to try and have some good signage to help folks find the areas where they should park in?
Absolutely, yes.
Okay.
We're working on that with the Town Highway Department.
All right, that'll be great. We don't do this that often, and especially, I can speak personally, as you get a little bit older,
Mhm.
you kind of forget some of these things, so some good signage, I'm sure, would help a lot of people there. Okay, anything else you want to talk about for the primary that we haven't covered?
Well, we would encourage people to come out and vote, as we always do for every election. We encourage people to register to vote.
Right.
Now, again, if you're not a registered voter and you live in Enfield and you want to vote in the Republican presidential primary, you can walk up to our office or the town clerk's office up until 12 noon on Monday, April 23rd, register in person. If you're going to register by mail, you have to have the registration form postmarked 1 week prior to the election. And then we receive it and we will get you a confirmation letter.
And where can you get that form?
You can get the form at the Town of Enfield website, which is www.enfield-ct.gov. At the town website, at the top of the page, there's a listing for departments. you'll have to scroll down to Registrar of Voters. And on the Registrar of Voter webpage is a form. It'll say voter registration form. Open it up, print it at your home computer or the senior center computer or the town library computer, your office computer at your workstation, and fill it out and mail it to us.
Okay, very good. Or you can have your grandson print one out for you.
That's correct.
Okay. All right, I think that kind of covers pretty much all that we want to talk about that. David is also affiliated with a organization that's very near and dear to my heart, the 4th of July Town Celebration Committee.
Yes, it's once again, 26 volunteers, people like Mike Tippo, who've lived here all their lives, are getting ready for the next 4th of July celebration, which is July 6, 7, and 8 here on the Enfield Town Green.
Very good, very good. This is an organization that started from very small roots and keeps growing and growing and gets better in different directions. And anything new this year that we haven't seen before, Dave?
Well, we of course will have a fabulous fireworks show on Sunday night, July 8th. We have the annual Independence Day Parade on Saturday morning, July 7th. Entertainment, we have all evening entertainment for all musical interests, from rock and roll to bluegrass to acoustical guitar to the Hartford Symphony. And that's going to be on the website www.enfieldcelebration.org. That information is going to be posted shortly. So that is coming up. Different this year. We're going to bring back for teenagers a demonstration from bikers. These are professional bike riders. They go up and down. I'm not one of those.
You're talking about two-wheel
bikes. Two-wheel bikes. Yes,
Yeah.
the group's called
Like-
Maximum Velocity.
Mountain bike kind of thing?
Mountain
For some
bikes,
folks?
yeah, and it's. I
Okay.
know that if you watch ESPN or ESPNU,
Extreme
Extreme
Sports.
Sports, you
Okay.
see all these.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a very popular
Yeah,
sport, and it's become
Yeah.
a professional sport.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
we will have that group back this year again. We had them for the first time last year. We're going to be doing more publicity to attract teens who ride bicycles,
Good.
mountain bikes, and the like, to come down and see Maximum Velocity
Right.
perform.
great, very good. You're going to still have a teen area exclusively for?
We are going to have teen
Teens.
activities on Higgins Field
Great.
on Friday and Saturday nights. It's free entertainment for students, DJ, battle the bands. We'll be doing that.
Very good.
And we're continuing to expand our free children's activities, which is in front of Higgins School on North Main Street, on Saturday and Sundays.
Wonderful, wonderful. And hopefully we'll have a program on that as we get closer to the 4th of July. If you're new in town, this is the biggest event in North Central Connecticut, year after year. In the Boston Globe calls it the 3rd best fireworks show in New England. So, I mean, this is big time. If you haven't been to it, you really want to look into it. David, I want to thank you very much.
Michael, thank you for having
Always
me
good
on
talking
today,
with
and
you.
look forward to coming back again in the next couple of months.
Very good, very good. Also, want to thank Kevin Sullivan, our videographer, producer, director, and the guy that puts it all together and makes it all happen and gives us a nice professional look to it. And we hope to see you again soon. Have a great spring. This is Mike Tippo wishing you the best.